Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albracht and Tommy Castor.
Welcome in, everybody. Happy Monday to you. I guess everybody except Royals fans. That was a rough weekend. We'll get into that, of course. It is Sports Daily. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor here. Chad Chambers driving the ship for us, man in that IHOP hotline. Brought to you by IHOP, where you can try the 2x2x2. 2 eggs your way, 2 bacon strips or pork sausage links, 2 buttermilk pancakes, just $7. It is open for you at 869-1240. You can, of course, reach us there, old school. Let us know what you think about whatever it is that we talk about today. You can get on the action there. You can get on the action through our video stream, Facebook, YouTube, and X. We appreciate those of you listening to us on the Odyssey app. If you're ever away from your car, it's that easy. Just download the Odyssey app. If you're around the house, just tell your smart speaker to play KFH. Always good stuff. Tommy, good morning. How are you?
Man, I'm good. Good weekend. Good to be here today. Pretty low-key weekend, at least for me. I don't know about you. I feel like, for the most part, the last few weeks, the weekends have been wild and busy and whatever. Didn't do a whole lot, so it was good to just kind of, catch up on things.
Yeah, it was, except baseball. It was not good to catch up on baseball if you're a Royals fan. It continues to spiral out of control on them. They have just, what are we looking at? 3 wins since June 9th, Tommy. 3 wins since June 9th, and now all of a sudden, they are 9 games back in the division in Major League Baseball. No good. We'll get into that. That'll be a big part of, I think, what we talk about today, certainly. And really that that sort of dominated the weekend for me, Tommy, as far as things paying attention to. They were playing the Rangers, and I'm a Rangers fan, so I was watching them anyway. But that's brutal. Scotty Scheffler wins again, despite some shenanigans there at the end of that game. You get Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese facing off again. It seems like they play 3 times a week now, I think. But it is a little bit slow on the sports schedule here, other than baseball, which is why we watch the Royals and why we're so excited that the Royals are, in contention this year, at least for now. And, we always love the term, is it time to panic? And I think it's absolutely time to panic if you're a Royals fan. It is panic season right now. This thing it's getting out of control. This is a very extended bad stretch now. They're 9 games back in the division. They are no longer a wild card team. If the playoffs started today, they won 3 games in the last 15 days or whatever it is. And now you look at this stretch and it's God, I hope they can survive the Marlins before they get to the Guardians. And then if this continues on this pace, Tommy, the division's gone. You can throw the division out the window, and then it just becomes, can you be a wild card team? I am stunned. They've gone 1-5 now against the A's and the Rangers, who had been struggling. We'll see if maybe this is their turnaround point, which was coming at some point. But my goodness, this is wild.
Well, they haven't scored a run in 22 innings, and so it's been a really incredibly anemic stretch offensively for the Kansas City offense
yesterday.
I think that part of it for me, and the reason, and I know that you bring up the question, is it time to panic? Should we be panicking? I think the reason why I'm at a point to where I'm okay, we need to maybe press that panic button is because the offensive struggles, it's extended beyond just some of the other guys on the team, and it's gotten to Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez. Neither one of those guys are hitting. Nobody is hitting right now for the Royals. And so I think at that point, then it starts to become contagious. It starts to spread. Then it becomes more of a mindset thing, a mental thing. You've got this entire team they're mired in this slump right now offensively. It's not for the most part, I would say, it's not the pitching has been terrible. It's just they can't get anything going offensively at all. They were in, I think it was the Saturday game. They were in the Saturday game for a majority of it, right? They were down, I think, 1-0 for a majority of that game. And, Angel Zerpa gives up a grand slam. And at that point, it's just, all bets are off. But really, other than that, it's not like it's been a terrible pitching stretch for Kansas City for the
Marsh was
most
fine
part.
yesterday.
Marsh was fine yesterday. Waka, I think, comes off the IL and looks pretty good yesterday. So it's not about that. It's that they just absolutely cannot get anything going offensively.
The other side of it is if they are streaky, like I think we think that they are, and some people think they're very much so, then, you may get a little swing the other direction, but you can't have stretches like this. I mean, this is out of control. And we had looked at and the other part is it should be an advantageous portion of the schedule. And maybe the Royals are schedule proof. They sort of have been this year. It hasn't really mattered as much who they're playing. When they're hot, they're hot. They're beating anybody. When they're not, they're losing to anybody. And maybe that's the way it is. It's just at some point, like, you still have to be able to reach the postseason. And it's just been so bad lately that now, it looked, I even like right before this, if you just go back to last month, it looked like, oh, there's no way this team doesn't make playoffs, right? The depth in the rotation, all these things. And now it's like, is there any way this team's making the playoffs? And that's too harsh. And I think the answer is somewhere in between. And hopefully they stay in contention on this. The problem, though, is when you look at the American League and now you're behind Baltimore, who we absolutely know is for real and is going to be there. Minnesota, we assumed would be. They're hot, and they're where we kind of thought they would be. Boston's better than expected. That's the third team in there now. Whether they hold up is whatever. But then just behind Kansas City sort of now, and you let Texas make up 3 games on you, by the way. But you've got Houston, Tampa, Texas, and Toronto, like all right there. And so now it's not just like now you've got all these teams jumbled into a mess, and the Royals have allowed themselves to sort of fall back into that mess. And that's a problem too, because you had done such a nice job the first couple of months of the season that you sort of hoped they'd be able to carry that momentum on through. Now they're going to have to outplay those teams. They're going to have to outplay them. And that's a lot of really good teams that have not played well that will very likely play better down the stretch. And that's a tall order if you're Kansas City. They have to dominate a series against Cleveland if they want any chance to get back into this thing. And the reality is it's probably very much more so now about the wild card. And so you got to just get there, though. Like, you got to just hang in there. And it just looks daunting right now based on what we've seen.
I think that the one thing to keep in perspective in all of this, and I brought this up a couple of minutes ago, is that the starting pitching has been really good. And even though they're 2 of 7 in their last 9 games, the pitching overall has been fairly good. You mentioned Alec Marsh. He had a bad game the last time out, but he bounced back, and he's kind of like that every other start kind of guy right now. But he pitched yesterday the way that you would want your 5th starter to pitch. He had 3 runs, 8 hits, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, 5 2/3. Not amazing, but okay. Like, fine for a 5th starter. It's all right. Of course, he's going against the future Hall of Famer and Max Scherzer, who looked brilliant in his return from the IL. But Brady Singer and Michael Wacha in the first 2 games, both of them 1-run ball in 5 innings pitched for both of them. So overall, you're talking about the bottom of the rotation pitching fairly well and kind of doing what you would want them to do. You just need to figure out ways to generate that offensive production. And that's really the struggle, altogether. And I think that one thing that is going to be really important in this to recognize, your next 10 games are at home. You have a 10-game homestand. You're playing the Marlins starting tonight in a 3-game set. The Marlins are not world beaters. And so you can't do against the Marlins what you did against the Athletics a few days ago. You can't let an inferior ball club come in and take 2 of 3 or worse from you. You can't make that happen. And so that's got to be obviously priority number 1. And then a massive 4-game weekend set against the Guardians. It's not done yet for Kansas City as far as the division is concerned, but it very well could be after this weekend. And so that makes these games that much more critical. Now's the time right now for the Royals, especially offensively. You got to put on your big boy pants.
Well, they do at home.
This is the stretch of the season where you've got to put on your big boy pants.
They do at home. That's all you can hope for, is they've been so much better offensively at home than they have been on the road. And in it, you're going to have that. They've gone 3-11 in their last 14. Is this a team capable of going 11-3 if they're going to be streaky? I think it probably is. I think they probably have those sorts of stretches in them when they have the starting pitching that they have. And, you're at home now. So the excuse of, well, they've just been so much better at home, it's got to go out the window here. Prove it now, because you have to have it at this point. And you're going to have it against a Guardian team. The Guardians have won 5 in a row. That's the other problem here for the Royals, is the Guardians are just maintaining their pace. And so, look, they get a 3-game set in Baltimore. Can you have a 3-game swing here? I mean, you could. But that only gets you back to 6 games going into a 4-game series. Best they can absolutely do by the end of that Guardians series now is what? To be 2 games back? And that's if they won 7 in a row and the Guardians lost 7 in a row. That's how daunting this is. It just does not seem like the Guardians are going to let up here. Because remember, they just entered a pretty tough stretch of their schedule by winning percentage. And they played Seattle and Toronto in the same time that, Kansas City played Oakland and Texas, and they went 5-1. They did what they should have done. And the Royals didn't. And now they face this task. And maybe at some point they can climb back into a division race. I think you just sort of have to set that to the side. Now can they just stay in playoff contention? Can they just play better baseball? Right? Can they just hang in there? And it's so strange because it's hard to point at what it is specifically that's really hurting them when they're not scoring
not
enough
hitting
runs.
The baseball.
I know, but
right?
go back to the Oakland series. What did they have in that series? Yeah, they had 5 runs in the first game and they still lose it. Right? So it's like when they do, then the other thing goes wrong. It's just they can't. They're just in a funk right now. That when they do hit, then their pitching's bad. When their pitching's great, they can't hit. They just can't get it going in the right direction. I do think the mental makeup and the attitude of this team is probably fine, which helps. I don't think you have any concern of like abandoning ship or anything like that. I think the leadership on the team is fine. So it really is, you just have to get the timing right of all of this. And coming back home could be what cures this. I mean, it could. They've been a better team at home. Let me look at their record home and road real quick. So I want to make sure I get it right. Yeah. 25-14 at home. So they're 9 games above 500 at home and they're 6 games below 500 on the road. If you go and you look at the teams right now in contention, either for their divisions or wild card leaders, that is absolutely and clearly and not close. The biggest difference between the Royals and those teams is that the Royals have been bad on the road. You go look at all those other teams. Minnesota's a game over 500. Cleveland, 6 games over 500. Boston, 8 games over 500 on the road. Baltimore, 10. Yankees, 14. Those are your contenders there, and the teams in the mix directly right now. They've all been better on the road, and the Royals have not been. And that's the difference between the Royals right now and those teams is they can't get it done on the road.
Yeah, that's a major part of it. And that's why I was, I think concerned, even though looking at the opponents that they had when they had this big, long road trip, really other than the Dodgers, there wasn't a team, the A's didn't put the fear of God into me. The Rangers, I know they've got a lot of talent, but they had underperformed. And so they didn't put the fear of God into me either. I'm like, okay, this is a Royals team that 2 out of the 3 series that they're playing, they should win. Those should be the expectations. They didn't win any of them. They lost, what was it, 2 of 3 or 3 of 4 from the Dodgers, 2 of 3 from the A's, 2 of 3 from the Rangers. I mean, it was a pretty terrible road trip for Kansas City. And, oh, by the way, you back that up and you're, before that at home against the Yankees and the Mariners. I mean, it's been, even though the level of competition on this road trip outside of Los Angeles hasn't been top tier, knowing how bad they have been on the road, that's a disadvantage also as part of all of it. Rick, one of our listeners on our video stream, one of our viewers, comments about how bad this team has been in the seasons prior and how there should be this thought of just being happy that they are where they are right now. And I've seen that, especially after this weekend on social media, people saying like, well, like, maybe we should lower the expectations. Like they were so bad last year. And, let's just be grateful that they are where they are right now. I disagree with that wholeheartedly because at the end of the day, like, and Rick points out that they're ahead of schedule. Okay. That might be true that they are ahead of schedule and maybe they didn't expect to contend this year, but they have been contending. You adjust expectations when things happen over the first 2 or 3 months of the season, and to a point to where whether or not they're ahead of schedule, you never know what's going to happen in the future. So you have to strike while the iron is hot. I mean, even like your plans and your schedule may not always pan out with reality. So who knows if they'll ever be back in this position again. I'd like to think that they are, with Bobby Witt Jr. locked up long-term and, all of that, but you never know. So, I'm not ready to wave the white flag on this season and just say, you know what? It's going to be more than likely a massive increase in wins. Even if they don't make the playoffs, we should be happy with where they ended. I think that's we're in the middle of, or towards the end of June. I'm not ready yet to wave that white flag.
No. And I think the other thing that goes to that, because I agree with you, I think it will absolutely be a disappointment if the Royals are not very much in the mix going down to the final week of the season. Like that will be a disappointment. And the reason is, this compared to last year is great. It is. There's no question about that. And not just compared to last year, really compared to the last, 4 or 5. But the reality is those years were much worse than they should have been. Okay. So, the Royals should not have been as bad as they were at least the last couple of years. Rebuilds in baseball do not take that long. They got it wrong as an organization forever. So they changed up the philosophy. They went in and they ponied up and they spent some money and it worked. And so, they were really bad the last few years. That was worse than they should have been the last few years, quite frankly. So now as it's flipped to the other side, it's absolutely fine to think they're better than they should have been, because that's the law of averages in a long baseball season. And it has been a long stretch of miserable, not even bad baseball in Kansas City. Dreadful, awful. Like just ridiculous. There was no light at the end of the tunnel other than Bobby Witt Jr. There wasn't. And so now you have these things that they push the right buttons. The pieces seem to fit. Here we go. Yeah. After that start, to stumble like this is 100% fair to say is disappointing. And if they fall out of this thing and we don't even make it to the trade deadline, that's going to be disappointing. We're past. You could give us that, we should be happy they're on a hot streak the first month of the season. There is no reason this team should not stay in contention. They have as deep a starting rotation as there is in the American League. They have 2 MVP caliber players in the lineup. Okay, so that is, look at Cleveland. Who's Cleveland's second best player? How many could name him? It's Quan, right? I think.
Sure. Yeah.
But who knows that? Like they're the Jose Ramirez gang. Who's the 3rd, 4th, and 5th starters in their rotation? Nobody outside of Jeff Lutz knows that answer. Okay.
I was going to say, ask Jeff. I can't tell you that.
But that's what I mean. Like we can't make excuses because the Royals sucked last year.
Yeah.
Look at it reasonably, and you should see a team with a deep rotation and MVP can't, like, there's no reason they shouldn't be in there.
I've seen a lot of comparisons recently, especially during this tough stretch, comparing this year's Royals team to the 2003 Royals team. If you'll recall, they were in first place for a majority of that season. They faded down the stretch. They finished 83 and 79, missed the playoffs, finished 3rd in the American League Central. I've seen those comparisons. I disagree with them because you compare the rosters. And to your point, man, Mike Sweeney, I guess, was on that 2003 team. That was about it. It wasn't like they were loaded with stars. They were kind of fluky, that they won the way that they did until it all kind of fell apart. This team's got more talent. I don't see them as fluky. I see them as deep and talented in a lot of different ways.
This team feels way more like 2014 to me than it does 2003. Feels a lot like 2014. And we'll see what happens at the deadline, because I get this growing feeling that it's going to feel like 2014 at the deadline too. where they're indecisive and don't do anything. Can they overcome it? They did.
JJ Piccolo spoke about that. He spoke about that over the weekend. We can get into that after the break.
Okay, yeah, tell me, because I missed those comments. So Tommy will enlighten us on what Piccolo has to say, because I'm curious. 869-1240, what do you have to say? That's the number to the IHOP hotline. Hey, one of the hottest festivals this summer in Goddard, Kansas is Dam Jam, July 19th and 20th. You can see Brantley Gilbert, Stone Temple Pilots, Dustin Lynch, Jody Messina, and many more. How fun would it be for you to go there? We're giving away pairs of 2-day general admission tickets. All you have to do is text the keyword party, P-A-R-T-Y, to the number 20357, and you could be on your way to an epic festival experience. Winners will be announced this Friday at 6 o'clock. Message and data rates apply. Good luck, everybody. We'll get you that this hour. We'll get you a different giveaway in the second hour. We'll be back with more Sports Daily, Albracht and Castor, right after this.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With more than 25 flavors, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day for half-price cups of tea. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy. We have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free.
Welcome back. It's Sports Daily. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor with you. Enjoying it. Sort of. Maybe not quite as much. If you're a Royals fan, a frustrating Monday, frustrating weekend for the Royals. We appreciate Prairie Fire Coffee. Mornings at KFH. Staff always enjoys a great cup of coffee from Prairie Fire Coffee. Tommy, the Royals have struggled. We just spent the entire first segment laying that out there for people. You can chime in on that, 869-1240. Ken, not happy with the batting average with men in scoring position. You know, that had been something that the Royals had done well. That was kind of one of their things that they did well. They put that graphic up. I don't remember if it was the Oakland series or the Rangers series, sort of showing the opposite things happening, where I think it was Oakland was really bad with runners in scoring position and the Royals had been really good. And then in the series, it was totally flip-flopped. That has been a problem. And that is, you know, as we talk about trade deadlines and things like that, something I think to always keep in mind is, you know, there's a lot of inexperience up and down the Royals lineup. And you wonder how much of that stuff plays into it, how guys have been there or not been there. But Tommy, JJ Piccolo talked this week, and now I missed this, so I have not seen what he had to say. What are his thoughts on things right now?
Yeah, so he was on MLB Network Radio on Sunday before the finale against the Rangers, and he said that his team plans to be aggressive at the trade deadline. His quote was, "The thing we have to keep in mind, I like to think that we're just getting into a window where we're going to have a nice handful of seasons. How far do we want to push this thing is something that we have to answer as a front office. But I will say that I feel an obligation personally to the guys that committed to this team and chose Kansas City, and to the Salvador Perez's and the Bobby Witts who have chosen to be here long-term to add to this club. So we will be aggressive and we'll look at anything and everything."
Good, because that's the right answer too, by the way. Like that's, you know, and I'm glad Rick brought up the point, because I don't think apathy is fair to this team to say, oh yeah, well, they've been, I also don't think I think even more importantly than that, it's not fair to the fan base. Again, they should not have been as bad the last few years as they have been. There was a scheduled rebuild. And in those years, yeah, you're planning on being pretty bad. And I can totally live with that. It's the economics of baseball, especially when you're a market the size of Kansas City. Those things, though, are not supposed to last 7 years, right? Or however many years it was exactly. Like that's the problem. And so now it feels more like it probably should have felt at least 1 year ago. And one of the big reasons it's happened is because the Royals they just said, forget this. Like, let's just go get some players. And they did, and it's worked. You can't abandon that now.
Yeah, I think that the big question that I have is, you know, if they're wanting to be aggressive at the trade deadline, what does this team look like a month from now? Are they able to hang on between now and then to still be in a position to where you can be aggressive? And that, you know, we've had this conversation so many times over the last month or so, maybe even prior to that, about, you know, can the Royals make any moves now? Like, do they have to wait until the trade deadline, or can they be active and aggressive now? Because I do wonder, with the recent stretch of baseball, you know, you've got a little over a month until the trade deadline. What's the record going to be for this team if they don't turn it around now? Will they be in a position to be buyers at the trade deadline? I'd like to be optimistic and say, yes, I think they will be. But with the most recent 10 games or so, it doesn't leave me a whole lot of confidence.
I mean, they need to be as aggressive as they possibly can be, Tommy.
But let's say in the next month they, you know, lose, they're under 500. Let's say, I'm not saying overall, but let's say that in the next month or so of those games, they're under 500, and then you're that much further out of a wild card spot. You're kind of in that middle ground where, do you want to be a buyer? You're not really a seller. Do you stand pat and just do nothing? I just don't know. And I feel like you're kind of walking on that thin ice over the next month or so if things don't turn around right away, where you might get to the trade deadline and be like, well, we're not even in a position to compete for a wild card anymore. So why do we want to be aggressive?
Well, because I don't think they have the tools to be as aggressive as maybe that scenario would play itself out. I don't think they have the pieces to go be ultra aggressive. They don't have them, so I don't know how aggressive. I think they should be as aggressive as they can be. Maybe it alters whether you go after a 1-year rental player or a player maybe with 2 years of control, because I do think the window extends into next year because of the Lugo and Waka contracts. But I think you still need to be as aggressive as you can be. We're looking at a team, and I know that the recent history sort of wipes this away, but I mean, since 1986, Tommy, basically, I was born in 1985. The Royals won the World Series that year. Year after that, so basically my entire life, you're looking at a team that has just made the playoffs twice in 14 and 15. That's not the win the World Series. That is make the dang playoffs twice. There is a generation of fans here who have seen basically 2 good years in their franchise's history. So you can't afford to just stamp it. You can't do that. Not when you have, again, I think this is even different than in 14. In 2014, and when I say this team reminds me of that team, their chances to make the playoffs remind me of that team. The makeup of the team doesn't remind me anything of that team, right? That was a team full of young players who all seemingly were sort of ascending at the same time. And it was like they just weren't going to be willing to give up any of those guys. This team is very different than that. This is a team full of a young star, an aging star, and a bunch of dudes and a deep starting rotation. That's what I mean. So now that I think can be good enough to get there. I do. But let's not pretend they have all these untradeable assets. Like if you look on this team and they're not trading Bobby Witt Jr. or Salvador Perez, name me one other player that's untouchable in the entire organization. Name me one. Because I don't think they have one. Which is why I don't think they can be that aggressive anyway, even if they want to be. I think Bobby Witt Jr. is untouchable. Salvador Perez is untouchable. And obviously, they're not trading any of their starting pitchers.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think Seth Lugo or Cole Reagan
Correct.
is going to be traded.
But if you look like organization-wide, they don't have it. I would trade Vinny Pasquantino tomorrow. And I know that bugs Royals fans, but if that brought me back a veteran clutch hitter for 2, I would trade him tomorrow. I'd be willing to. And I like him. It's not a knock on him. It's a look at reality and what this organization has faced. They're trying to convince somebody to build them a new stadium, right? You're like, guys, if you look across baseball, Tommy, and I don't mean this offensively. I mean it like it is why this is such a starved situation. Has there been holistically over the last 40 years a worse baseball organization?
Probably not. The Pittsburgh Pirates come to mind as,
maybe,
not being good. I would even maybe say, well, I was going to say the Rockies, but they made a World Series and, at one point they got swept, but they at least made it. The Pirates, I mean, they would definitely be bottom 3, if not the worst in the last 40 years. And I know I've lived here my entire life. I know I've lived through year after year after year after year of not just mediocre baseball, of bad baseball. There's a reason why I'm about the same age as you. I'm from 2.5 hours away from Kansas City. There's a reason why I didn't grow up a Royals fan, because they were bad.
Right.
Every year, without a doubt. They were irrelevant even for a number of those years. They've been irrelevant for the last decade, basically. From an offensive point of view, and I go back and forth on this. One day it's like they need to address the bullpen. The next day I'm like, they need to address the offense. I think that it's become clear to me that even though you could always use reinforcements in your bullpen, the more glaring issue is the offense. And that's going to be something that, night in and night out, I don't have a consistent concern about the bullpen. They're not the most electric, but at the same time, it's not like every time a reliever comes out of the pen, I'm like, hold on to your butts. Here we go. It might be bad. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. At that point, it kind of is what it is. Offensively, though, that's become a clear day in and day out issue for Kansas City, especially in the outfield. Combined, Kansas City's outfielders, their OPS ranks 29th in Major League Baseball. Next to last, the Chicago White Sox, who are a dumpster fire, are the worst. Kansas City's outfielder OPS is next to last in Major League Baseball. They have to get that addressed. They've got to, and that's been a season
that's not
long
issue,
either,
right?
Right.
Yeah,
that's not changing, right? Like that's not like that's from the entire season. That's just not the last 10 games where they've struggled mightily overall. They've had, over the course of the season, other players, your Bobby Witts and your Salvador Perez's and Michael Massey's and others that have helped pick up that slack a little bit. But now nobody is hitting. And it becomes that much more glaring that your outfield has got to be improved and taken care of sooner rather than later if they want any prayer of making the playoffs.
It seems solvable. You don't have to, it doesn't cost you much, right, to go find a few veteran bats. Like that almost certainly will happen, I think. And you can get more creative too. Like Drew Waters last year, that trade's probably out there too. Like, can we just swap? Can we just try something different here and go find a different young player that maybe, but honestly, I think they'd be better served to just go get a couple of outfield bat rentals. Don't cost you almost nothing. Most of the time, if you'll just eat the contract, you can have them. And that's, put up or shut up time for John Sherman too, because he did go and basically give his blessing, you would think, on some spending this offseason. It's really helped. Will he do it again? Will you do it again for a couple of rentals? Because if they'll go eat contracts, they probably don't even have to give up much. For the kinds of bat that they're likely in the market for, they're probably very much like eat the rest of the contract and you can have them type of players. And so, that's which is what they need. I mean, they need something. They need anything. And you just can't waste it. You just can't be happy with it's been a nice run. I mean, and I know Royals fans know this. Royals fans certainly know it more than I know it. But my goodness, it has been so bad for so long. And then and the other thing is, too, if you're John Sherman, just go back. Like, it's easy to find. Go look at the attendance numbers in years where they've been respectable. Right? Like, they are... Their world. Okay, so in 2014, they drew 1.9 million fans. That jumped to 2.7 in 15. So that was the year they lost the World Series to the year they won it. And then it stayed above 2 for 2 more years, 2.5, 2.2. Well, guess what happens when you start to win 55 games a season or whatever? It falls off a cliff. And so, like, that, you want a reason to go do it? Because you'll draw 1 million more fans in a season. Go put a competitive team on the field. And this fan base has shown you in the limited opportunities that it's had that it will come to the ballpark. So you got to make sure the team is good. That for Noah, even if it's the wrong decision competitively, you still have to try to do it from a business standpoint, from a moral standpoint, but it kind of is a moral standpoint at this point. You can't keep rolling out bad teams. Bottom line is, Tommy, they got to win more games on the field. And we'll look ahead to this series against the Marlins. I don't know anything about the Marlins this year, except the Royals need to be beating them in a series at home. We'll do that a little bit later. We'll look at, round 3 of Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark in the most, I think, compelling and interesting storyline that league has ever had. It's just been fantastic every time out. We can look at that. A golf tournament, Scotty Scheffler wins again. How close is he to peak Tiger? That's what I want to know from Tommy. And we'll get into all of these things and your comments. Don't forget, you have a chance to win some Damn Jam tickets July 19th and 20th. Brantley Gilbert, Stone Temple Pilots, Dustin Lynch, Jody Messina, and more. 2-day general admission tickets. Just text the keyword PARTY, PARTY, to the number 20357 Winners will be announced Friday at 6 o'clock. Message and data rates apply. Don't go away.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With more than 25 flavors, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day for half-price cups of tea. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy. We have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free.
right, welcome back, everybody, to Sports Daily. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor here. Glad to be with you on this Monday. It's been a tough weekend for Royals fans. That's where we've spent the majority of our time here in this hour. But you know what? It's baseball. Starts again. Royals back home tonight facing the Marlins. Royals baseball on KFH, available for free on the Odyssey app. Tune in to KFH tonight at 7, or simply download the Odyssey app and search for KFH. Trade deadline coming at some point. We'll wait and see what the Royals do. We'll change our mind, 156 times between now and then, I'm sure. But they need to do something. I think we've established that. Don't forget, you can leave us the comments on our video stream as well, Facebook, YouTube, on X, as people have been sort of trying to identify the issues there. I think we all know what it is. They just need to play better on the road. Can they play it? But the counter to that, Tom, is they play better at home, and they get a lot of games at home here now over the next little stretch. And so, okay, you mentioned 10 games in a row, and then it's another long road stretch. But there's a lot of home games mixed in here. Where do the Royals need to be when we get to that trade deadline? When we get to the All-Star break, right? When we get to that point of the season where we really look and evaluate these things. Where do the Royals need to be for you to give you a good feeling then going down the stretch?
From a record perspective, I mean, they're currently, 5 games over?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you
can
look at it that way. Maybe. You can look at it that way. You can look at it within, being within a certain number of, games to a wild card spot. However it is you want to look at it. The All-Star break is July 16th this year. That's when the All-Star game is. So, I mean, what does it need to look like then by that point or the trade deadline? Either way you look at it, which is not that far away, right? The trade deadline is July 30th this year, I believe. So you're kind of looking at that same time frame, mid-July, late July. Where do they need to be on that for you to feel like, yeah, let's push all the chips in here?
Well, during that time, they play 6 games, I think, against the White Sox in that stretch. They've got a couple of games against the Cardinals. The Cardinals are better than what they were at the beginning of the season, but they're still not an amazing team. The Rockies, they get 3 games against them in Colorado. They're not good. There's a couple of more difficult series, like a 3-game set on the road in Boston. But really, of course, the Guardians series coming up. Other than that, though, it's a manageable stretch of baseball overall between now and the trade deadline. They're 9 games out of first place. They're a game and a half back of the Twins. I think that where I'm going to feel most confident in them would be if they get to the trade deadline and they're back holding one of the wild card spots. I think you need to actually have one of the wild card spots. So I don't know if that means that you are still chasing the Twins and the Twins have one of them if they continue to play well, or if it means you leapfrog them. I don't particularly care how they hold a wild card spot, but I think that they need to actually have one of them by the time the trade deadline comes around, because then if you are actually holding on to one of those spots and then you go and you get some reinforcements at the trade deadline, at that point, I'll feel more confident in them.
So last year, it took a .549 winning percentage for a wild card spot. Seattle missed it by a game. That was at .543, 88 and 89 wins. Right now, the Royals are pacing behind that at .532. They're not far off of it, though. I think if they're more or less in the position that they're currently in, I'd still say go for it, because that's what it took over the course of a season. Let me go back one more year in 2022 here and just look at it. That year it was .531. So basically the pace they're at this year would have made the postseason 2 years ago and been real close last year. So as damning as this has seemed, they are still in position right now where they need to be like a game or two better than they have been through this point of the season, and they're likely to get a wild card spot, historically speaking. I don't think they're that far off, which is why I think there's almost no scenario except an absolute doomsday scenario where you wouldn't want them to be aggressive at the deadline. But it is It's getting close, and it sucks because it was such a no-brainer 10 days ago, 15 days ago. 869-1240. We'll come back. We'll spend some more time with the Royals in the second hour. We'll also bounce around. By the way, breaking news, Isaiah Buggs. We've been wondering how much longer the Chiefs would deal with that. Not any longer. They're releasing him, according to Tom Pelissero. So there goes that situation. We can get into that in the second hour. Your calls, another chance to win. I'll set this up one more time here in the first hour today. One of the hottest festivals this summer is in Goddard, Kansas. It's the Dam Jam, July 19th and 20th. You can see Brantley Gilbert, Stone Temple Pilots, Dustin Lynch, Jody Messina, and more. We're giving away pairs of 2-day general admission tickets. All you got to do is text the keyword party to the number 20357, and you could be on your way. Winners will be announced this Friday at 6 o'clock. Good luck, everybody. Message and data rates apply. We'll have another giveaway in hour number 2. Don't go away. We're coming right back.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With more than 25 flavors, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day for half-price cups of tea. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy. We have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free. have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albracht and Tommy Castor.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily. Here it is, Albracht and Castor on a Monday. We are in the dog days of summer. Stay cool out there, everybody, today. It's hot, Tommy. This portion of the program brought to you by Crestview Country Club. I got to ask you, you're a golfer. You love golf. You wouldn't miss an opportunity to play golf. Would you miss an opportunity to play golf at about 2 o'clock today?
No, I would play. I would play. I would need all of the proper accessories, I think, to make it work. I would need a big old bottle of water. I would need all the sunscreen in the world. I'd need one of those cooling towels. Maybe a fan to put in the golf cart. I would still probably go and play.
So
you wouldn't want to be around me when it's all done. I mean, I would smell pretty terrible.
That happens no matter what the weather is. I could walk into the house and my wife be 4 rooms away and just be like, "Oh, God, you smell!" And I'm like, every time, like, you don't need to tell me. I know that I smell. And golfing does make you. But I went out with the kids, all 3 of them, last night. They wanted to ride with me, and we were. My wife had to work a little bit, and I was like, "Well, what do you guys want to do?" And they're like, "Well, why don't we just, they like cruising around in the golf cart." I was like, "All right, we'll go." And I it's always hard when all 3 of them come because they have to, they cram in there in it. But it was hot, and man, when it's that hot, like, I'm a head sweater, so like the entire time I'm just like my eyes, I'm just trying to keep sweat out of my eyes. It was okay. It was also, like, probably at that point, 88 degrees and muggy and no wind and perfectly still. It's going to be tough out there today. I would power through it too, in the right circumstance. But and I'm not typically a like run away from the heat person. I don't love, but this is the next couple of days. I might just, kind of chill out a little bit from.
Can I tell you how much I hate the fact that you're playing more golf than I am these days? I hate it.
Well, I've found the formula though, Tommy. I take the kids and I go at night when it doesn't interfere with anything. It makes no difference, right? To anything else happening in our lives, because I'm not going until I'm twilight golfing. Like I'm teeing off after 6:30. So it doesn't impact anybody and what they're doing. So that's been the key. Is it only, I mean, I'm usually done in like an hour and 15 minutes. I'll tell you that I played like crap yesterday. I didn't take any time. I didn't have any time to go out to the range. And I mean, it was a joke. Like I was just like, although I will say, like, it was collectively the worst I've played all year, but I had a birdie like mixed in there with all the garbage that I was spewing out there. And my kids, of course, are great cheerleaders. I'm like, God, what is wrong with me? Like, what are you talking about? You hit that one so far. I'm like, thanks, guys. I appreciate that. But yeah, it's not good when you lose 6 balls on 9 holes, kids. Like that usually is a good an indicator of that things are not going well. But we appreciate Crestview's support. That's the thing. Now I found another thing, right? I just go play twilight golf with the kids. So it's always been the pool and the clubhouse and all that stuff for us.
We had a little pool party on Friday.
We did. We went out. We had a couple of beers and sat out in the swimming pool and closed her down. That was good. 8 out there. Always a good time. My wife plays gobs of tennis. And now maybe I can mix in a little golf through this secret of twilight golf. So give Crestview a call. Tell them we sent you. We appreciate their support on the program for sure. Speaking of golf, Scotty Scheffler wins again. I think he would probably be paying off on our experiment if we were doing it, and which would be to bet him to win every tournament he plays. It would be probably just slightly over, a wash, but I think it would be over with the amount of wins he's had this year. 6, is it?
Yeah,
I'm
that's right.
not, don't misunderstand what I'm asking. I'm not asking is Scotty Scheffler right there where Tiger Woods was, because I know he's not. But in the scope of one season, essentially, does this feel to you like when Tiger was peak Tiger? Not in totality, not in impact, not in any of that. Just like in an individual season, I think this is at worst the closest we've had to it, to that where it just feels like you cannot beat that person. That's what it feels like to me. The closest we've had since. I don't think it's quite there yet, but I think it's as close as we've seen. Again, in one. Now, he'd have to extend this. I mean, what was Tiger's run? A decade? He'd have to extend this a long time to even approach, the overall field, but just within this one season.
Yeah, I think if you only look at it in the context of this one particular season, then yeah, I mean, this is the closest I think that we've seen to somebody playing like Tiger did in the context of one season. I think that we've had, and there have been other golfers that have won multiple times on the PGA Tour, even won multiple majors in 1 year since Tiger Woods had his stretch of dominance, but nobody as consistent. I mean, because remember, even going back to the PGA Championship at Valhalla, it took Scheffler being arrested to actually not be in contention, and he was, not far off. But it took, all of that drama to happen to kind of get him off of his game slightly. He had a bad U.S. Open. It was tough for him. Wasn't in contention in that tournament. But other than that, every single tournament, and the Masters and the Players and the Arnold Palmer and of course the Travelers yesterday, he's won. He has won them, and that we have not seen that since Tiger Woods had his dominance. Now in totality, yes, it's going to take another decade plus of doing this exact thing every single year in and year out for him to even come close to what Tiger did. Tiger won 80 sometimes on the PGA Tour over the course of his career, had 15 or however many majors that he won. Scotty's not there yet. Scotty's only 28. He just turned 28 over the weekend. So he's got quite a bit of, I think, time in his prime yet to continue to grow. Do I think that at the end of it, when he hangs up his career, that he will be compared to Tiger in totality? Maybe. And the reason that I say that, and I don't think that I don't think anybody will ever eclipse or surpass Tiger Woods. But the reason why I say compared to Tiger in the long run is because of the way that Scotty wins. What Scotty does is he plays extremely disciplined golf. He doesn't get rattled. He doesn't get off of his game. He's got his clutch gene, which is what Tiger Woods had. We've seen golfers from time to time that even with the most talent in the world, they find ways to make mistakes, whether it's mental mistakes or, whatever it is. That's what happens to a lot of the best golfers out there. Jordan Spieth comes to mind immediately as somebody with gobs of talent, but he makes mental mistakes. It happens with a lot of the best golfers out there. Scotty doesn't do that. Like, I would challenge anybody to go out and look at, see if you can find times where Scotty is making a mistake and letting an opponent get back into it. He doesn't do that. Tiger didn't do that. And I think that's what makes him the closest thing, at least right now, to what Tiger Woods was when he was at his best.
Yeah, I don't know as much about this stuff as you do. I think Tiger seemed like he was going to come get you, right? Like it seemed like he was always lurking and would come get you. Scotty just seems like, yeah, he's never going to screw up.
He just doesn't make mistakes.
He just like, whereas Tiger was going to come get you, Scotty feels like more like you're never going to go get him. He's not going to let you do that. And I know that obviously he's not winning every single tournament he plays in, but at least the vibe of it. And it is, I think it's starting to grow. I think people are, I would be real curious to see if numbers are up with him and if he is commanding the sort of audience. Not, I know it won't be the same as Tiger, but if he's just, if he's growing the audience from week to week when he's involved. Rodney asked what was going on the 18th green. Was there a protest or something? Yeah, it was a protest. It was smoke bombs. So no big deal. I mean, they just played through it. I wasn't watching. I'm not watching the Travelers tournament, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
but that's what
I
it was.
had it on. I had it on in the moment. It was ridiculous. It delayed everything about like 10 minutes or whatever. They had to clean up the green, and there were, I think, 6
the point of the
protesters
are trying to disrupt, life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that it looked like security got in there pretty quick and they were able to handle it.
What were they protesting?
Climate. It was climate protesting. I don't know what that solves or what that accomplishes, but that's
not to make light of it, but putting smoke into the air when you're protesting, smoke in the air is a little strange, but whatever. It was fine. I mean, they worked right through it. But yeah, what do we still have? Is the only one left the British Open or whatever they call it?
The Open Championship, at Royal Troon this year. If Scotty can win that, I mean, obviously you're talking about winning 2 majors in 4 years. That's been done before. Like, it's been done several different times, even after Tiger Woods. I mean, Jordan Spieth in 2015 won the US Open and the Masters. He won 5 overall times that year. Jason Day won 5 times in the PGA Championship in 2015. Justin Thomas did that in 2017. Brooks Koepka has won multiple majors, things like that. There are, and I want to be clear. I'm not taking anything away from Scotty because he is the best golfer in the world currently right now. I think there is a touch of recency bias in this a little bit because we're seeing it from him right this second, where there have been other golfers that are currently, still playing that have touched that in recent years, that have done, what Scotty has done. Maybe not exactly at the level where it looks like they can't miss. And I think that's why the whole conversation is, if he can maintain it, if he can continue this and keep it up, then at that point, those comparisons are going to continue.
Well, he has had more wins this year, though, on tour than those guys, right? At 6. Has anybody else had 6?
In 1 year?
Yeah.
No, like Vijay Singh, you go back to him in 2004, he won 9 times in a season, including the PGA Championship. Nick Price in 1994, he won 6 times and won 2 majors that year.
But there's still a lot of tournaments this year, right? I mean, they'll still play.
Yeah, they've got 2 months. Well, and that's the whole point of this, is that he's won 5 times this season, or 6 times. He's won the multiple times, the quickest that anybody has done it before July 1st. So there's a lot more golf.
So there is some precedent. So if this continues,
with this, there is precedent, but he's got the opportunity, if he continues playing at this clip, to go and be able to break those records.
I'm just looking at Tiger because it feels like Tiger, never lost a major there for a stretch. So he had the year 2000, he won 3 of them. He didn't win the Masters. And then, of course, he came back and won the Masters in 2001, 2002. He had 2 of them in 2002. I think he had 2 of them in 2006. He had 2 in 2005 and 2006. There just weren't a lot of years where he wasn't winning at least one of them. So, I don't know. We're never going to get there again. We're never going to get to Tiger again, just in the impact of it. I do think, and you mentioned, and this is why I bring this question up, the recency bias thing. I think other than Rory McIlroy there for just a minute and maybe Justin Spieth for just a minute, I don't think any of the names you brought up feel like this one has, where this guy feels like he's going to have a chance to be that next dude and maintain it, right? That's the problem for these other guys.
Maintaining is the problem.
They didn't maintain it. But doesn't stylistically, doesn't it, his style of play seems the most likely to do that, right? Because it's mistake-free golf that has made him so great, where it's not like, he's just this bomb, or maybe he is. I don't know. Again, I don't know those stats or anything, but it's just, that's the thing. He seems like he's screw-up proof.
Yeah, the most recent golfer, I think, to, have this comparison was probably Jordan Spieth, because going back to 2015 when he won 2 majors in that year and won 5 times overall that season, that's the last time that I think we had a golfer have those comparisons. But the difference is exactly what you just mentioned. Jordan Spieth, if you want to relate it to football, Jordan Spieth reminds me an awful lot of a quarterback like Brett Favre. He's a gunslinger. He's incredibly talented. Brett Favre threw a lot of interceptions. You know, when he was on, he was the best in the league at that time. But when he was off, I mean, he was going to throw some bad passes. He was going to get picked off, and you know, it was not always going to be the prettiest thing in the world. That's Jordan Spieth. Like, you know, he's immensely talented, but every now and then, like, you watch him and you're like, oh God, he just, you know, put one in the water. He did that over the weekend in the Travelers. You know, like, golfers are going to do that, but somebody with those expectations, and even back in those days in 2015, 2016, I mean, there were times where you expected him to win, and there were times that he looked dominant, and then there were times that he was all over the place, and you're like, what is going on? Scotty Scheffler doesn't do that. That's the difference between somebody like Jordan Spieth in 2015 and Scotty Scheffler in 2024. And that's also what compares Scotty with Tiger. Tiger was mistake-free. Scotty is mistake-free. And that's, I think, why those comparisons are happening. Rory, I think, I'm not sure that I would even put Rory in that category. I mean, Rory.
No. I wouldn't either. But
what I'm saying, I don't even think
buzz.
that even, but he had the buzz, but I don't even think back in, when was that, 2012 to 2014, when Rory was kind of at the top, 2010, maybe going back to there. I know there were a lot of comparisons with Tiger, but Rory was so young back then that it was untapped, and he won majors and all of that. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure, at least I didn't at the time, think, yeah, this is the guy who's going to be the next Tiger. I saw him as, this is the guy who may be the face of the PGA Tour, and he ultimately has become that. But I never thought that it was going to be like, oh, he's just as good and will win just as much as Tiger did. I've not felt this way about a golfer, really, other than Scotty, since Tiger did what he did, you know, a decade ago.
I love it. Golf has needed it. We've had teases of it. I'm intrigued by it because I don't understand it quite as much. And the other thing that Scotty does, and this is, I think, the difference too, and why Rory had a minute of this, is because it's the Caitlin Clark part of it. It's the pop culture part of it. Scotty Scheffler has entered that. It's why that arrest thing for golf was not a bad thing necessarily, because it put this star player in the spotlight even more. And he was growing in there because of his documentaries and all that stuff. But it puts him in there now, and now he's become sort of this folk hero. And now he's become, like, people are drawn to him. And that's what golf had. Golf people love golf. I love to play golf. I love to watch the majors. I don't mind if it's on, but I'm not seeking it out. But most of the time, I didn't this past weekend, but most of the time lately, like, if you're telling me he's in there, I kind of tune in a little bit. I think he's become a little more than just a great golfer, I guess, is my point. And that's what they haven't been able to totally capitalize on. You know, Phil had those moments where he was sort of there. Vijay Singh never took like Tiger did. I think Rory was the next closest, and that's just off the top of my head. I think even more than Spieth, Rory captivated us in a little different way. And I think Scheffler, while he wasn't maybe 12 months ago, because I don't think he was then, I think he is now. And if he can maintain this, I think he could be the next closest thing for sure. Like, if he can just consistently do what he's done this year over, a 5-6 year stretch, he'll command a following like that, I think, that will draw people in that may not have been there in the first place.
I think one other thing that is a difference between the two, and we can compare their games and their accolades and records and all of that, and that's all fair. There is a pretty, I think, important difference between the two of them, and that's their personality. And not Tiger's today. Tiger's personality today is night and day different than what it was when he was in his prime 20 years ago. Tiger was absolutely feared, not just because of his game, but kind of the way that he was. Like, he was locked in. He was not personable. It's not like he was friendly. He wasn't, all of those guys. Like, he wanted to get in your head and he wanted to dominate you. It was like Michael Jordan, back in the NBA. He was going to trash talk you. It was not going to be a pleasant experience for the competitors that were playing with Tiger. Scotty's a little bit different because I think he lulls people into a false sense of security. Like, oh, he's just this nice guy, and he's, doesn't look super imposing, doesn't look really intimidating. He's really friendly. And, like I saw him and Tom Kim, and I know that they're buddies, but Tom Kim was in the final round with Scotty Scheffler yesterday, and they ended up playing in a playoff together. And these two guys, like, they're joking around, they're laughing, whatever. Tiger didn't do that. Tiger was going to be locked in to one singular focus, and that was beating the ever living crap out of you. Scotty's a little bit different. And so I think that, like, the competitors are like, yeah, like, there's nothing about him that looks super impressive. We can go out there and beat him. And then he just, like, doesn't make any mistakes. And then you're left wondering what the heck just happened. You knew what you were getting yourself into if you were competing against Tiger. I think it's a little bit different with Scotty.
It's different with Scotty. It's not going to be what Tiger was. It won't be. But I don't think it has to be. Nope, nobody ever will be, though. Like, we can throw that out.
Nobody
There's
will
not anything that, unless there's a one-armed golfer that all of a sudden comes out and beats everybody with one arm. You know what I mean? And I'm not making light of anything. I'm just saying, like, there'll never be anything that captivates us like Tiger did. But that doesn't mean you can't be something more than what has been since. And I think that's what Scotty Scheffler has a chance to do. He just keeps on winning. I mean, that part takes care of itself. Get arrested, end up on some T-shirts. Maybe that helps. Give a cameo in a new Happy Gilmore movie. Do something funny. Make like an off-color joke that becomes a meme at some point. All those little things. He'd get there. 869-1240. Want to talk about Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark. Again, in the headlines, and they both deliver. They are delivering on their roles in all this. It's been really good. We'll come back. More Sports Daily right after this.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With more than 25 flavors, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day for half-price cups of tea. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy. We have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily. Glad to be here with you. Let's do our second giveaway, an HTO text-to-win contest. You can enter the contest. Just text the keyword TEA to short code 20357 to win some free iced tea. More than 20 flavors available for you at East Wichita, West Wichita, and in Derby. You can also win a free rain coffee, one of each, a little iced tea, a little coffee. You can enter once per day. That's TEA to short code 20357. Good luck, everybody, with our text contest. We'll have more of those as we make our way through the week. Glad to be here with you on this Tuesday. The IHOP hotline is open for you, by the way. The Big Farmhouse Breakfast right now at IHOP, 2 smoked sausage links, 2 strips of bacon, 2 pork sausage links, 2 pieces of ham, 2 eggs, hash browns, buttermilk pancakes, and toast. Good luck. But you can get that right now at IHOP. We appreciate them bringing us the IHOP hotline. You can, of course, leave your comments on our video stream as well, which is available to you on Facebook, on YouTube, on X. All you got to do for that is go search for KFH, and you can find us there. I'm going to repost that again here for the second hour right now. If you follow me on social media, you'll find it. And that is now reposted. So you can find all those. You can leave us your comments. We always have great listeners leaving us comments there as well. I think that sets us up. Oh, yeah, don't forget, Odyssey app. If you're not by your radio and you want to listen to us away from your radio, the Odyssey app is the easiest place to do that. You can also tell your smart speaker just to tune into KFH, and that'll work for you. We have Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, another round, and both of them deliver. I think a little less drama this time on the court, but Caitlin Clark, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 13 assists. And Angel Reese was fantastic as well, going for 25 and 16, becoming the first player since Asia Wilson to go for 25-15. First rookie, I should say. So, look, these two young players who have been very compelling, who continue to draw attention to the league, which is good for the league, continue to deliver. And they're both having as good a rookie seasons as you ever see by all accounts in this league. They're both delivering. Of course, I saw somebody say this, and it makes sense. Like, it's okay to like both of these players. You don't have to pick a side here. even though, again, I don't want to make excuses because I think Angel Reese is making it easier to pick a side, as she is sometimes embracing the role of villain and sometimes embracing the role of victim, and it gets a little confusing, but she is such a good villain if you're a Caitlin Clark fan that it makes this all more compelling. But it is okay to just be like, both of these players are awesome, and I really enjoy them both. I think that is probably where most people in reality, maybe not. That's probably not true. I think that's where a lot of people, I think most people land in the pro Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese as this villain camp. And whatever, she embraces it. Sometimes she's good at it, probably more important than anything, but it continues to add to this drama and this intrigue for this league that has lacked that for, well, really ever since its existence. And new attention comes in. And I will say this, it's all, Caitlin Clark's the driver in this, but as Angel Reese continues to be a really good player, this happens over time, Tommy. Like, when there is this hero, there is the anti-hero. And sometimes you just get drawn to the anti-hero because you're contrarian. I used to do this as a kid all the time. Reason I've never liked the Braves, Tommy, I may have told you this. The Braves, when I was growing up, when I was young, like the Braves were the team I hated the most. And then it became the Yankees pretty quickly as reality set in. But I'm talking like, from age probably like 5 to 12, the Braves were the bad guys. Why? Because everybody liked the Braves. And I made that decision. I'll never forget. I was in kindergarten at a friend's house, and they were all big Braves fans. We didn't have cable TV. So I was like, Braves, who cares about the Braves? Like, I couldn't watch the Braves anyway. And so we go to their house, and they're all rooting for the Braves. It was the year they played the Blue Jays. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go for the Blue Jays just so I can talk trash. And while now that maybe seems a little silly, my own kids do that to me all the time. So I'm like, oh, well, look what we started here. My wife's a trash talker too. So maybe it's just right. But like, that was it. So like everybody was going for the Braves. Like, no, I'm going to go for the Blue Jays. And so I didn't like the Braves then for most of my life for that stupid, silly reason. And I wonder if that, and look, I didn't like the Bulls, the Jordan Bulls for that reason. I didn't like Shaq and Kobe Lakers for that reason. Like, I'm like, no, I don't want to see the same people do all this all the time. I'm going to go for the other guys. I wonder if any of that will ever happen with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese.
I think that really the difference, though, is like it's one thing if it was just Caitlin Clark, but you mentioned the anti-hero. Like, the Angel Reese has a very important role to play in all of this. And there have been other players in the WNBA this season that are veterans that have come out that they've tried to be the anti-hero against Caitlin Clark. They're fouling her hard. They're doing all these different things, like a welcome to the WNBA moment, Caitlin. But Angel Reese is so tied to Caitlin Clark because of the years that they went to school and the battles that their teams had and all of that. Like, she is the perfect antithesis to Caitlin Clark. Where these other players in the WNBA, they might want to assert themselves and tell Caitlin Clark, this is our league and blah, blah, blah. But really, if there was an Angel Reese, then it would be a lot different. And I think that it reminds me, okay, so like a good example would be, we bring up, and I brought them up before, Steph Curry and the Warriors. When they were the dynasty and they were rolling over everybody, and Steph Curry was hitting every shot known to man during that time, I hated it. Because there was no antithesis. There was nobody that like raised their hand and said, we're going to try to do everything that we can to put a stop to this. And there was no formidable opponent at that time for the Warriors. They beat everybody. They won every championship. Steph Curry made every shot. It wasn't interesting. I hated it.
I agree. And this is the Durant Curry. This is the Durant Curry, because LeBron did get him once. And then, of course, Fred VanVleet got him once when they were missing some players. But I agree with you. I do. And I think the other good comparison with that group is you hated it, but you didn't hate Steph Curry because it was kind of like impossible to hate Steph Curry. Right. And I'm talking about sports hate people. Like, don't freak out here. So you didn't sports hate Steph Curry. Nobody's ever going to sports hate Caitlin Clark because she doesn't allow it. She always says the right thing. She always does the right thing. And her game is pretty awesome no matter what you think. Like, it's fun to watch her game. It's fun to watch her style. And so But that doesn't mean like if all of a sudden the Fever were to get really good, and again, they were the worst team in the league, and so they've got some ground to make up. And it's funny that those two teams with those two players are sort of battling it out for apparently the final playoff spot. But it will be like, I can't figure Angel Reese. Caitlin Clark's easy to figure. This spotlight in this fame was thrust upon her, and she has embraced it, and she's really good at it. And I don't even know how much she loves it, but she's good at it, right? And she has carried the burden as well as humanly possible, because it is a burden. Angel Reese, I can't figure what she wants. She created the villain role herself. The "you can't see me" ring thing in the championship game, that was a pure, like, everybody's paying attention to you. They need to be paying attention to me. Get out of my face. Villain moment. You did that. That was all you. Nobody created that. Nobody, and in all fairness, and I'm just trying to be fair and observe the situation, not a lot of people even knew who she was. If you followed college basketball, you knew who she was. She was a really good player. I knew that much. But the Caitlin Clark crowd, like the phenomenon that has been Caitlin Clark, that has just grown to it because of Caitlin Clark, had no idea who she was before that moment. Now they did. Now you gave them a villain. That villain role and persona has carried through, but then you'll have moments where you try to play victim, and it's like, well, hang on a minute. Like, you created this. You didn't have to do that. You could have just gone out and played that game and beat them, and it would have been fine. And I say all of this, it's made it better. I'm glad she did it. I like that she did it. I like the attitude. I think having the anti-Caitlin Clark is so good to the story. So now it's carried over. It has carried over into the league. I mean, it's the same. It's not all that different, is it, Tommy? Like, it's kind of the same thing we saw in college. These two continue to go head to head. One is the very soft-spoken, seemingly, Captain America, and the other is the more maybe like Iron Man a little bit, a little attitude, a little flair in there, a little whatever. And it's just carried on through, and I think it's made it better, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's Michael Jordan, Isaiah Thomas. I mean, that's what it reminds me of. Isaiah Thomas was mouthy, and he was obnoxious, and he was annoying, and Jordan was kind of Captain America. And, I'm talking about mouthy. He was, but I'm talking early 90s, that kind of, rivalry before the Bulls became the dynasty that they were, kind of at the very beginning of that, where the Pistons they had been the team, and then the Bulls were coming in to try to take that. It reminds me of that kind of relationship a little bit. I've heard people draw comparisons to Bird and John. I don't know if that's really the case, because those guys were friends, and like had been friends. Like, it's not like, I don't think Clark and Reese are buddy.
I don't think they're pals.
But I think one of the most unfair criticisms, and there have been some things that Angel Reese has absolutely brought on to herself that I don't have sympathy for her. But one area where I do have a little bit of sympathy is I've heard people say there would be no Angel Reese without Caitlin Clark. And I don't buy that. She's a talented basketball player. She was the 7th overall pick. And she was a great player
before the ring thing, right?
Absolutely. And even in the small sample size of being in the WNBA, I mean, just listen to this. She's the first rookie since Atlanta's Ryan Howard in 2022 to record 5 consecutive double-digit scoring games at the beginning of her career in the WNBA, the second most offensive rebounds in a season's first 5 games, and she's had a league record for 7 consecutive double-doubles in her rookie year. She's a great player. There's a reason why she was drafted with the 7th overall pick. So like that, I've heard that criticism so many different times. A lot of times it's like keyboard warriors on social media, that are saying there's no Angel Reese without Caitlin Clark. Yeah. That's crap. She's a great player. More people know who she is because of the Caitlin Clark drama.
I was going to say.
So, I can be fair about that.
She would have been a great player whether Caitlin Clark ever played a game.
Right.
However,
the notoriety she has
exactly
is because of the Caitlin Clark drama. Yes. I get that, and I'll concede that, but it's unfair to say that like there's no talent, there's no whatever, and it's only because of Caitlin Clark. It's not. The stats back that up. That she's a great basketball player.
I think people are saying the notoriety more than they're saying the talent. I don't think people care about the talent. I think it's the notoriety. And the reality is, and it's a harsh reality, I think, for everybody in the WNBA, Angel Reese, the veterans, all of it, everybody, is that it ain't going to have the attention without the Caitlin Clark phenomenon. You can be mad at that, I guess, if you want to be, but it's the simple truth. It just wouldn't be. There have been much better players than both of these two come through the WNBA, and people weren't paying attention to it like they are now. People were, but not like this. So you can get mad and jealous and all these things all you want, but it's reality. I mean, the attention has come because of Caitlin Clark, just like it came to college basketball. And you either embrace it or you don't. But I'll tell you this, I don't care if they don't, because I think putting Caitlin Clark with this steeper mountain to climb makes this all better anyway. It makes it better if you're a Caitlin Clark person. It makes it better if you're not. Like, it all this does is keep it in the headlines, which is what the game desperately needed and has never had before. And what will happen is you're going to have more Angel Reese fans. You're going to have more fans of the home team that Caitlin Clark goes and visits. Like, it will grow the game tremendously. We have never talked about the WNBA on this program that I can remember before this season. That's not a knock on the WNBA. It's because our listeners, I don't think, which is what we always try and gauge what we talk about, generally speaking, weren't that interested in it. We don't talk NBA on this program, hardly at all, because I don't think our listeners are that interested in it in this part of the country. Guess what? We do all the time now. And then there, and it's so impact it's there. It's what the league needed, and I hope it continues. So I think it's cool. 869-1240 is the number to call if you want to chime in. We'll go back to the Royals. We'll look ahead to this Marlins series specifically when we return on Sports Daily.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With more than 25 flavors, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day for half-price cups of tea. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy. We have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It is Sports Daily here on KFH. Don't forget, one more giveaway this hour for you. You can win our giveaway of HTO iced tea and coffee. Just text the keyword TEA to short code 20357. Good luck. We'll give away more Damn Jam tickets tomorrow as well. Tommy will spend a couple minutes here on the Royals as we look ahead to this series. Again, I mean, it doesn't really change from what we saw in the Oakland series. You get a series in which you get Reagans and Lugo, and it's against a bad team like the Marlins. At minimum, it needs to be 2 out of 3. I think, again, just like Oakland, despite what's been going on the last 2.5 weeks, you look at it again as it's a series at home that they probably need to be starting with sweep. Like, this needs to be a sweep. And at worst, you just can't have this momentum continuing into that Cleveland series.
It's going to be tough when the Royals are not hitting the baseball and they're not scoring runs. And I know that we've been hyper focused on, at least the last 3 games and the sputtering offense on the road at Texas and that sweep against the Rangers. But really, there have been struggles offensively for Kansas City, specifically when Cole Reagans has started for a while now. I mean, Reagans.
How many of those have been on the road? Have you looked? I'll go back.
I haven't looked. Reagans is 4-5 overall, but he's 0-2 in his last 5 starts, and he's got a 2.70 ERA in those last 5 starts. Hasn't won a game in the last 5 starts, but it's not really his doing. Like, he's pitched good, he's pitched fine. He just hasn't gotten the run support that he's needed. So even though we've been really focused on the most recent offensive struggles with Kansas City, for some reason, over the last 5 starts that Reagan has pitched in, the Royals have not been good offensively during those starts. They've got to change that.
So they have only won one of those games too, not just him, but the team. He's pitched 3 of them on the road. He has dropped his ERA 0.2 of a run. He's dropped from 3.36 to 3.13 in that stretch. He hasn't given up more than 3 runs in that stretch. The 3
and he hasn't won.
It was a 7-inning game too, by the way. And he's not giving. It's not like he's been Brady singering it and, just avoiding trouble the whole time, he's been pretty good. He's been, honestly, it's as good a 5-game stretch, Tommy, as he's really had all season long in reality. And yeah, and I hadn't realized that. That would be something to, and good on Cole Reagans too, by the way, because that's what good pitchers need to do. Just do their thing regardless of what's happening. But yeah, that's a problem. That's a real big problem. And
here's the other thing, and I want to mention this very quickly that, Oakland is not a good ball club altogether, and the Royals struggled against Oakland. There's a couple differences. First off, this game is at home, and we know how bad the Royals have been on the road. That's where, they played against Oakland. But also, if there is one bright spot with Oakland overall, their bullpen is really good. They've got overall decent pitching, I think, from top to bottom. The Marlins pitching is terrible. And so if you're trying to break out of this slump and get the bats going, this would be the time to do it, because the Marlins overall have one of the worst pitching staffs in Major League Baseball. So you got to take advantage of that. That is a benefit, I think, to starting off this homestand with a team like the Marlins. You can get warmed up for Cleveland later this week, but you have to take advantage of it. If the Royals struggle offensively in the next 3 games against Miami with how bad of a pitching staff the Marlins have, then there is real and legitimate room for concern.
Yep, I agree. Real quick, before we have to take this break, Jad, who's going to win Game 7 of the hockey series? Who's going to win the Stanley Cup? You got a Game 7. Edmonton comes back from 3-0. Connor McDavid, the Canadian, has a chance to lead Canada to their first Stanley Cup in like forever as a nation. We have dominated their sport. What are you thinking here, Jad, in Game 7?
I would really like to see Edmonton win this one. I really would.
No USA pride there.
Stuart Skinner in goal.
I know, but
Stuart Skinner, the former Thunder goaltender,
I know.
With Edmonton.
But shouldn't we have a little American pride in that? And
for
that
Florida?
We don't let Canada get one?
Nah.
No, for Florida, no.
How many Americans are playing for Florida right now? Like that's the thing. Like you look at their roster, like there's not. They're all foreign anyway with Florida.
Yeah, so. but I heard somebody on the Infinity Sports Network over the weekend kind of explain there's like a lot of the time they don't want to play in Canada because they don't want to pay Canadian taxes.
How
so
cool
it's like,
would it be, by the way, though, for Edmonton to come back from that deficit and win? Like that'd be cool. Pretty amazing.
And I would love it for Canada. I love our Canadian friends north of the border. I think Connor McDavid leading them there I think all of that would be really cool, but I just can't shake just this tiny little twinge of like, go USA, and be like, nah, let's not let Canada get one. And let's keep it down here south of that northern border. I don't know. I'm excited. I have got to remember to put that on tonight because it's going to be epic. It's going to be so good. And I love the Stanley Cup, and I have not watched any this year. I mean, it's Game 7 with all the history there. Like, I got to remember. I'm going to set myself a reminder to turn that on tonight.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With more than 25 flavors, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day for half-price cups of tea. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy. have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free.
All right, that's it for us, everybody. You got the Royals tonight right here on KFH. You can always listen to them on KFH, available for free on the Odyssey app. That's another easy way to do it. Listen in tomorrow for more chances to win Damn Jam tickets and HTO. You've got Jim Rome after us, Bob and Jeff locally from 2 to 4. Then you get Infinity Sports Network programming until that first pitch of the Royals. I vow to watch some of the Stanley Cup final tonight.
7
we'll
o'clock.
Talk about it tomorrow. 7 o'clock. I'm going to try to watch some of it. Maybe the end. I hope it's good. Jad will keep a surprise tomorrow otherwise. We got also the College World Series final tonight, too. Try to keep an eye on that as well. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Jad and Tommy, I'm Jacob. See you tomorrow.
In Odyssey Sports Station.